This episode is sponsored by Molly Morris at M3 Virtual Accounting. If you have a virtual business that you have just started, you're not really sure how to navigate the tax structure, you're trying to figure out whether you should become an LLC or incorporated or all of the different options that there are, it varies by state and can get very confusing. You should get in touch with Molly and see if she can help you. She'll do a free consult, talk to you about what you're looking for and whether she can do what you need. Go to m3virtualaccounting.com and set up a free consult with Molly today.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition. We are covering A Feast for Crows, chapters 40 and 41, The Princess in the Tower, and Elaine. In these chapters, we get to find out what's really going on in Dorne and that things were a big misunderstanding. And then we hang out with Elaine, who is making a really fun new friend. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
All right. Yeah, so long chapters this week.
Yeah, they were.
They were each, the first one was like an hour and the second was like an hour and 10 minutes, according to the audiobook. So again, I think one could argue that it's longer than it needs to be. Arianne spends a lot of time in jail wanting somebody to talk to her and not getting it.
Yeah.
But it also does sort of help to understand how desperate she grows for contact and how, like, you know, she's basically in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
And people are in and out, but they do not talk to her except for one time, and that person winds up getting like removed and put somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, she ends up, even though it did like go on for quite a while, I have to say I do kind of appreciate watching her deteriorate, because initially she's very defiant when she comes in. Mm-hmm. She tries a different, like series of tactics. She's going to try to like order people around. That's not working. She tries to play on, how long she's known, what's his name?
Arya Hoto.
And like, you've known me since I was a little girl. You watched, you practically helped raise me. I can't, she tries all these different things. She gets the one little serving girl, eventually makes it through to this little girl, by using the name of, I think it was Dre.
Yes,
one of the little boy,
yeah.
right? So she uses that as sort of like a wedge to eventually get this girl to agree to smuggle a letter out. That goes nowhere. We never see that girl again until eventually she just runs out of hope. Mm-hmm. She stops scheming. She stops conniving. Takes to her bed and then just stops eating and is like, I like that sort of isolation will eventually have that effect on people, like solitary confinement is really like, I don't know if it's still legal in the United States. I know that there is like people who say that it's cruel and unusual punishment and it should not be allowed. I don't know.
I feel like there's a limit on how long it can be, like in a lot of places.
But like there was, a time where people would be in solitary confinement for years, and they would lose their grip on reality. They would go, insane, because that's how damaging that is, which is wild to think about, y'all.
Yeah, I've always found that kind of fascinating, that like we're so hardwired to need socialization with other people, that we lose that and everything else starts to go.
Yep. Especially like for me, and I know a lot of other people, we say jokingly with a grain of truth how we would just want to be left alone. I'm so sick of people. I just want to be left alone. But we are not built for that. We really aren't, you know. So, but then the chapter at the end, it starts moving, and we start getting some like, oh, word? Oh, is that what's been going on this whole time? And I don't know, like, it was such a shock to me. I don't have any, this character we discussed before, she doesn't make it to the show.
Right.
So I don't know if they took this storyline and hinted at it on the show, like with some throwaway lines that I didn't get because I wasn't a book reader, or if they took this and tried to reinsert some other character into this particular plot point, or anything. If anything
they pretty much
happened,
just dropped this, as much as I recall. Yeah,
because I was going to say this was like, we find out that Dorne has been according to Prince Doran, at least, and I feel like it's not silly for me to believe him, right? Like, I feel like he's telling the truth here. If it turns out he's not, then I'll just have egg on my face. But I think he's being honest here. To find out that they were secretly still supporting the Targaryens to rule, and like were so. Like, they were in it up to their necks to the point where she had been promised to fucking, the brother was Viserys, right?
Viserys, yeah. Yep.
Like, that's wild. And it was this huge secret because, well, it had to be, because this is fucking treason. This is treason. This isn't like for play treason, like what she was doing, right? This is
That's true, huh? She was doing for play treason in comparison to this. And I love that she's like, all you ever did was insult me by getting me these like awful old men for husbands. And he's like, I had to pick dudes I knew you'd never want because nobody could know that you were promised to somebody else. And this is what happens when you just have a plan, but one of the like key players doesn't get the information.
You have to
but
keep
he
them
makes
in
a
the
very
dark.
compelling like argument as to why he did not tell her, which is basically a bitch can't keep her mouth shut.
Yeah.
Which I relate to.
And it's wild when you think about the fact that her whole plan got torpedoed because someone couldn't keep their mouth shut. Even though I don't think we ever find out in this, at least in the chapter, I don't know if it was told in the chapter everything falls apart and I just forgot, or if legit.
She wants to know and he won't tell her. So
I just like, if there's ever a time for her to appreciate the fact that too many people knowing a thing can ruin a plan, and that's why he had to keep this a secret from her, I feel like she's exactly in that position. She would just be like, you know what? That's true, because somebody ran their mouth and fucked my whole shit up. So I understand why you had to keep it a secret.
And I love, like, when she first gets brought in here, there were Mirish carpets on the floor, red wine to drink, books to read. In one corner stood an ornate Shivas table with pieces of carved ivory and onyx, though she had no one to play with, even if she had been so inclined. She had a feather bed to sleep in, and a privy with a marble seat, sweetened by a basket full of herbs. This high up, the views were splendid. One window opened to the east, so she could watch the sun rise above the sea. And all of this is just like, you know, she's in a prime quality suite here.
Yeah, they have her. I mean, she's in a cell, but it is a beautiful prison that they have put her in. You know, it's lovely. It's got all the comforts. Shit sounds nicer than where I live. And the sand snakes, she thinks, may also be locked in the same tower. And there's a whole
she's
part
not
where
sure
she's
exactly
like,
where they are.
You know, she's like yelling out of the window, calling for them, but no one answers. She tries like stamping on the floor to see if anybody will knock on the ceiling from beneath her, and like there's none of that. I'll tell you what blew me away was, and I know I'm jumping towards the end, but she spends so much time in her prison in her room, imagining how she will beseech her father for mercy. But then when she's actually in front of him,
she plans on it, and then when the time comes, she's like, I can't fucking do it. I cannot. This is bullshit, and we all know it's bullshit. And I really related to that.
She is in the moment, basically calling her father useless and feckless and weak. Mm-hmm. And in her brain, she's like, girl, what are you doing? You said you were going to throw yourself at his mercy. This is not throwing yourself at his mercy. This is the opposite.
And that's like after she's been supposedly worn down. Like, when she expects, after getting brought to this prison, she expects to be brought to see him right away.
Oh, yeah.
So, I love this. She stripped out of the travel-stained garb she had slept in and donned the most revealing garments she could find. Wisps of silk that covered everything and hid nothing. Mm-hmm. Prince Doran might treat her like a child, but she refused to dress like one. She knew such garb would discomfit her father when he came to chastise her. She counted on it. And I love it. She does this. She's all fucking like... And he doesn't come to see her. So she's got her game plan that she's ready for, and he's not playing this game. He's just letting her sit and stew. And there was something about her really like, oh, I'm going to dress in this tiny little thing. And then it's just a servant comes in and goes, wow, it's quite an outfit. Here's your dinner. See you later.
And she goes through like several stages of just being completely in denial about her situation. Like, she's trying to order people to take her to see her father, or order them to bring her father to her. Like, she's just commanding a lot for someone who is not coming from a place of power. And that really tickled me, because if you are accustomed to having power over people, it can take some time to adjust when you lose that power. You know, you don't just automatically readjust the whole way you've moved through the world. So it takes a couple times for her to really appreciate that I can stamp my feet and order people all day long, and these motherfuckers are not paying me any mind. Yeah. They're just like, all right, here's dinner. Oh, you want me to do what? Yeah, here's dinner.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me again what you want. I'm still turning and closing the door behind me. There's like, so much time passes that she loses track, because I think one of the last check-ins of specific time we get is after a fortnight. Mm-hmm. And she bolted past Belandra, sending a platter of spiced eggs crashing against the wall, but the guards caught her before she'd gone 3 yards.
Like, where did she think
knew
she
them
was going?
too, but they were deaf to her entreaties. They dragged her back to her cell, kicking and squirming. And this is when she goes after Cedra. Garen had boasted of bedding her once, the princess recalled. The next time she bathed, as Cedra soaped her shoulders, she began to talk of everything and nothing. And she tells her about her day and, and just slowly, like, works on her. She mentions Garen. Cedric glanced up shyly at his name and almost spilled the wine she was pouring.
Oh, it was Garen,
it
not
is that
Dre.
way, is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to mention, too, that throughout this whole ordeal, as she's thinking about her father, she's thinking about what happened to the Dark Star, she's thinking about Oakheart and the guilt, but we keep getting these little, like, half sentences about Myrcella. Oh, I didn't mean for that to happen. That wasn't part of the plan. And, like, I'm like, what'd you do to that baby girl? What exactly happened? Because she never really finishes any of her sentences. And it's not until she sees her father that we get, like, I think her dad tells her exactly her condition. Yeah. And this is bad. Like, she's not dead, but she took something to the face, an axe or a sword or something, and, like, loses an ear. She's maimed,
Yep.
and is disfigured. I don't know.
I just really want to point out that we have got boiling oil falling on Loris. We have got Brienne getting her face chewed off. And now we have Myrcella getting a big slice across her face and losing an ear.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of, like, maiming injuries lately. Yeah. And I don't care for it.
And it's funny, too, because the show was just like, yeah, we're not doing any of this.
Yeah. Too much makeup work.
Like, they just killed the little girl in the show. They just like, yeah, we're not doing all that. But,
so, yeah, eventually, Cedra's like, please don't let him die. And she gives her a note to deliver. And, of course, Cedra is nowhere to be seen the next day.
Yeah,
and
she
she
never
asks
sees her
where
again.
she is, and nobody answers her. And,
my God. There's like two girls. I think they might be sisters. Two that are coming in to like clean, draw baths and everything. The two girls, their names start with M. And after Cedra disappears, there's a moment where she's like, well, maybe I can work on them. But because they're never alone. She's like, they come in always together, and like it's like talking to a wall. So she's thinking like, if I could just get them separated, maybe I can like get through to one of them. But no, that never happens. They always come in together.
Oh my God, I forgot. One year, King Robert's brother came to visit, and she did her best to seduce him, but she was half a girl, and Lord Renly seemed more bemused than inflamed by her overtures.
Poor thing. I thought that was really funny, because I don't know, again, I think we've had this conversation, like how widely it is known that Renly was at least bi, I think, mostly just, into dudes, period. But
yeah,
I am always kind of like, does everybody know? Who knows? It would have to be kind of a secret, but it also felt like things can be an open secret.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so I'm just not sure where along those lines that information is. I feel like it is too known to be considered a really great big secret, but also one of those things where it's just like, but nobody ever explicitly talks about it. So the idea that she would have also been so far removed, because she's all the way in Dorne, so she wouldn't be like privy to a lot of like the gossip or whatever. Also, I'm assuming she's, fairly young at that point,
Yeah.
So yeah, how would she know? So the idea of her like bringing her A game to this very attractive young, lord, and getting nothing and being
that
like,
sucks.
what the fuck, right? Like she goes back to her room and looks in the mirror and she's like, is it possible I'm not as hot as I think I am?
I thought I was like incredibly hot.
Right?
I'm pretty sure I'm incredibly hot.
Right? I am irresistible. Everybody says so.
Yep. Oh God, I love it. So yeah, then we get, her trying to sneak out and like make some marriage pacts of her own. She keeps getting caught. All these like various men that she's gone through, and it's all adding up to really seeming like her father does not respect her, that he does not value her. Like, you really understand why she's drawing the conclusions she's drawing, because it feels like strong evidence. It feels like she's got a case.
And then you have that letter
once
that
you get the reveal
found
later, it's like, oh, this all makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, she's got that, like, the combination of what seems like her dad being willing to marry her to literally anybody without any care for what she wants or what would make her happy, coupled with this letter that she finds that she believes is proof that her father plans to steal her inheritance from her. And you add it all up and you're like, oh, okay, I can see why she's, like, a little resentful and feels like she needs to take her shot because nobody appears to be acting with her interest in mind, So she has to, like, take it up for herself. Like, nobody's going to take care of me, so I got to figure out something. And then, like, the dad even says the letter that she misunderstood, that was not his plan at all. Which, you guys, what do we think about that?
Which part?
That
to disinherit her?
Yeah, that she just completely misread what was happening. That the dad, that Doran never planned on, skipping her and leaving everything to the brother. Like, he's claiming the brother hasn't even left. That he's still wherever he's supposed to be, where he's a ward. I forget what location is.
Initially, he is. It seems like he admits that maybe he has it wrong later, or at least that, like, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be that his son is supposed to be somewhere else and hasn't told him, or if they have a plan together and he is trying to really play that super close to the vest.
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't sure either.
But as far as the I didn't intend to take your inheritance, I fully believe his intention was, I'm marrying you to a Targaryen who will be king. You aren't going to want to be ruling Dorne when you will rule the 7 kingdoms. So then your brother would take Dorne because you have better shit to do.
Like your brother is not getting the prize that you think he's getting. He's getting a lesser thing compared to what I am trying to set up for you to have.
Exactly.
I love too that he's talking to her, and because so she's still mad too, by the way, that her father has not like avenged Oberyn.
Yes, very, very pissed.
People are not letting that shit slide.
Not even a little bit. That's like the primary rallying cry, it seems like.
I love it so much because during especially when you find out this like long-standing plan that he's had, that I will say one question I had was when he finally tells her the revelation about how he had promised her to Viserys and all. He knows Viserys is dead. He tells her he got the golden crown. That happened a little while ago. I feel like, do we get, or did I miss, like, any information about what the plan was during after Viserys died? Like, did you have a plan B for your daughter?
No.
Because it's been a minute. He's been dead for a couple of books now.
He is not sharing that in this chapter.
Mm-hmm. That concerns me.
Which part?
I mean, just because, like, it was nice to hear that he had this plan for his daughter, this path to greatness. You know, they're going to be in league with the Targaryens. They're going to take the throne back. They're the rightful rulers. She's going to be positioned to be queen. That all sounds super duper. But that plan collapsed years ago. What backup plan do you have for your daughter? What were you still intending on her to then rule Dorne once the plan fell through to marry a Targaryen? Or did you have some other marriage proposal in mind that we just don't hear about yet? That's what those are my questions.
Fair questions.
Yeah. He has to tell her at one point, he's like, I don't think you understand. We talk a big game here in Dorne. You know, we're super tough. We tell these stories about ourselves that make us sound like you really don't want to fuck with us. Mm-hmm. But between me and you, we a little ass city. We don't have that many people. I think you got your head gassed up with our big stories and songs and shit, but...
Yeah, he tells her that basically, like, the numbers of their army have been inflated by the Targaryens who conquered them, who wanted to make their victories seem more impressive.
Yep.
And she basically, like, fell for it.
Yeah. Not even just the part about the Targaryens making it seem like, you know, their victory was that more stunning. But he says, and you know what? We liked to, like, water the seed that, we gave the Targaryens a real run for their money, because that makes us look good too.
Exactly. Yeah, it all works together quite well. I really like all of this, like this reveal. I feel like I didn't fully appreciate like what a switcheroo this was the first time I read the series, because Dorne felt less important to me in a lot of ways. And I mean, the show clearly made it less important. Like, Dorne it's thrown in for color, but they don't do anything with it.
They sure don't.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I made this chai on our little break before we recorded, and I sweetened it with pumpkin spice syrup, and this thing is so good. Oh my God. I just took a sip and I was just like, oh. But yeah, so And I love that he also mentions that he left that Shavas table in her room because he was hoping that she would like play against herself and learn how to become a better player. And she just, it never even occurs to her to try and play a game against. She's in there alone with nothing to do, going crazy for how long? Maybe like a month and a half, 2 months. And she never even thinks to like play the game, which I found really funny for some reason.
I think that kind of says something about her, though. I think it does. I think it sort of suggests that. I'm trying to think how to say what I want to say here. It sort of suggests that as clever as she might be, as clever as she thinks she is, she may feel like there's really not a lot left for her to learn.
Definitely.
That she's already peaked. There's there's what benefit could possibly be to her to play this game alone to strengthen my game. I'm already at the top of my, you know what I mean? That kind of, it just sort of suggests a sort of a short-sightedness and a sort of a, I don't know if arrogance isn't really the word I want, but just sort of a lack of
maybe
complacency, but also like a lack of appreciation of an opportunity to better yourself in a way, right?
Yeah.
And it's a mixture of things. One, it doesn't seem like she really thinks she needs it. Also, it's one of those, like, the situation she's in is so big that it's easy to miss the small things.
Yeah,
like, because if you're being held prisoner, you've been caught trying to commit treason, you're separated from your group, you don't know who lived, who made it out, this thing happened with this little girl that you meet. So she's got a lot going on, so it's not unusual, I think, that she's not, like, interested in a fucking board game, right? It seems, like, small and stupid. But at the same time, you're being held alone for a period of time with nothing to do, and there's a game right there, and you never think, well, let me just sit down and run through this as a way to keep my mind active and keep me from going stir crazy and everything, and then just like literally never occurs to her.
Yeah, he asked her at one point like how much do you know to here it is. Sometimes it's best to study a game before you attempt to play it. How well do you know the game? Well enough to play, but not to win. And, we're not talking about Shavas anymore. So.
We are not. I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but we're definitely not talking about the game anymore. He says to her in reply that, my brother liked to, he liked to fight for itself. My brother likes to fight just for the fun of fucking fighting. And he says, but I only like to play when I know I can win. But he also says this game is not for me. and he's absolutely not talking just about the board game. Right?
Yeah, I really do like that. There's almost a feeling of like what could have been with the relationship that she has with her father and him finally confiding in her here, and how Cersei kind of has like seen the way she's been treated, and she's also a woman who wants power, who believes that she's better at the game than she actually is. But now we have Arianne, her father, like reaching out to her and communicating with her and sharing with her the secrets and the plan and how different that feels. And it's just maybe if Mr. Tywin had decided to talk to his daughter and train her a little bit better, she could have been a better player, but she was just so utterly dismissed that all of her, like, her skill that she thought she had grew sort of warped. That's just
I think I know what you mean.
Sort of.
I like the idea, too, that a lot of the sort of natural skill and discernment that Cersei possessed got corrupted by years of resentment years of being dismissed, like you said, and what sprouted up in its place is so poisonous, and so, like you said, warped and so detached from reality for Cersei. And it's wild to think that, like, what a different parental experience, what a different person she could have been,
Yeah.
If she had been brought up with a modicum of respect for her abilities, and not just like your job is to just be pretty and beautiful and married to a powerful person that I can make a match with, and what a different person she would have ended up becoming. Like wasted potential,
Yeah, very much so. And so, the fact that nobody like nurtured it, now it looks like, oh, look, see, women can't rule. Look at how bad a job she's doing. But it's like, well, nobody fucking tried to teach her anything. She just had to piece shit together while being shut out.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
And modeling her behavior on some of the worst examples, Robert is not someone to emulate as a ruler. Even Tywin, who, was a fantastic strategic mind, not necessarily someone I would want to be like, like
Yep.
she's just picking the worst people to try to, pantomime. It's such a bummer.
So I'm trying to find the spot because we mostly talked about, here it is. I'm too meek and weak and cautious, too lenient on our enemies. Just now, though, you are in need of some of that leniency, it seems to me. You ought to be pleading for my forgiveness rather than seeking to provoke me further. I ask leniency only for my friends. How noble of you. What they did for love of me. They do not deserve to die. As it happens, I agree. Aside from Darkstar, your fellow plotters were no more than foolish children. Still, this was no harmless game of Shavas. You and your friends were playing at treason. I might have had their heads off. You might have, but you didn't. And she's just like, you would never fucking dare. And he's like, oh, you have no goddamn idea.
She is really, really being way, way too feisty for my level of comfort. Like, normally I would be here for this, but this whole situation, I am just, girl, you got caught doing something wildly dangerous. Like,
Yep.
You fucked up. And then the consequences of your fuck up, you have got this girl who was your father's ward, who was like there to help maintain a very fragile sort of peace, right? Keeping things balanced. It's a very tricky act, and you just like gave both middle fingers to that whole thing. Like, do you even understand what you may have just done with this like rash, quite frankly, foolish, little escapade? And she, to my money, she is not appreciating the sort of gravity of the situation, to me. And normally I don't want to see, especially a woman character, like, necessarily grovel or be weak or, But I needed her to humble a little bit.
I get it. I really get it. Yeah, it's like, and she even is sort of like, why am I just fucking saying this shit to him? I feel like the energy she's coming in here with is like, either he's going to execute me, which I don't think is likely, and I may as well get this all out on the table now, or he's not going to execute me, in which case I have lost all respect for him because he stole my inheritance and is too weak to even put me to death, so fuck this guy. So she has just lost like any interest in looking at the consequences of what she has done and is only concerned with the effect it's having on her personally.
Absolutely. He says, you disappoint me. And she said the crow to the raven, you have been disappointing me for years. She had not meant to be so blunt. But the words came spilling out. There, now I have said it. So she has been harboring these feelings for a while. And these are the feelings that, again, spurred her to even try this fucking, scheme for, like, I can't think of anything else to call it but a fucking scheme, It's a fucking Three's Company plot. Like, we're just gonna, But, yeah, her feelings toward her father have been bubbling under the surface for a while now. And it all comes out. And it's years of various resentments that have all turned into this just ball of yuck in her stomach when she thinks about her father. Everything. She has no respect for him. Mm-hmm. Which is a weird place to be as a child with your parent in the regular world, in the real world, to not have respect for a parent. But then in this fantasy world, when your parent is also literally a ruler as well, and you don't have any respect for them, it hits a little different. Awesome. I would have to imagine. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this.
Bitch, when he asked about Oakhart, how did you get him? What did you do to him?
I fucked him, Father. You did command me to entertain our noble visitors, as I recall.
Why is she
Was
being
that
like
all
this?
that was required? I told him that once Marcella was queen, she would give us leave to marry. He wanted me for his wife. You did everything you could to stop him from dishonoring his vows, I am certain. It was her turn to flush. Her seduction of Sir Eris had required half a year. Though he claimed to have known other women before taking the white, she would never have known that from the way he acted. His caresses had been clumsy, his kisses nervous, and the first time they were abed together, he spent his seed on her thigh as she was guiding him inside her with her hand.
There's
Worse,
like two.
He had been consumed by shame. If she only had a dragon for every time he had whispered, "We should not be doing this." It's just like, this is another Samuel Tarley over here.
Oh my god. There's another line in her chapter. I think it's like a memory from when they were younger, where they were like going to seduce one of the little friends, and he just ends up coming all in her hands. And so I was like, damn, we got two of these in one chapter.
These dudes can't hold it. She's too fine. That's why. She's just too hot.
Oh, man. What a burden that must be for her.
And so she's like, well, just tell them that, he died defending Marcella. That was his job. And he's like, yeah, that's great. Until they're like, hey, Marcella, is that what happened? And
Right.
she's like, oh, I get it. He wants me to tell Marcella what to say.
Yeah, she's like, oh, he needs me. That's what's happening. And everything like changes on a dime, right? She's like, oh, well, you know what? I could tell her what to say, but why should I do that?
So this is finally when she like blurts out about the inheritance. And he looks like you. He thinks like you. You mean to give him Dorn. And she's like, what did I ever do to make you hate me so? I never hated you. Ariane, you do not understand. Yeah. Oh, great. And then I knew you would spurn them. I had to be seen to try to find a consort for you, or else it would raise suspicions. And your nature. To you, a secret was only a choice tale to whisper to Garen and Tyene. Garen gossips as only the orphans can, and Tyene keeps nothing from Obara and the Lady Nim. And if they knew, Obara is too fond of wine, and Nim is too close to the Fowler twins. And who might the Fowler twins confide in? I could not take the risk.
Yeah, she's got no idea what the fuck her dad is talking about. Like, he could just be rambling about anything. She is so fucking lost. And then finally, she was like, the word promised, he says to her. And she's just like, wait, promised? Like, it takes a second for her to come back to it. And then she's like, okay, well, who is it? This motherfucker tries to say it doesn't matter, he's dead. Sir, if you don't give me a goddamn name right now.
Yeah, we know because he says it was a pot of molten gold, but he doesn't actually ever tell her.
He sure doesn't. What does it matter? of course, like, to even say what does it matter? Of course it matters, because you're supposed to be telling me the truth finally. And that's part of the truth. I need to hear what you were planning to do with my fucking life, please. That pissed me off. Even though, like, I guess he's right, it doesn't matter. But, like, if you are finally telling somebody a thing, you're finally being honest with somebody, you need to, like, tell them. Don't be all cagey and withhold little bits and pieces. I don't like it.
Yeah, there's almost a part of me, because of how long it takes to get this out of him, I feel like it actually might be a character trait of his that he tells things backward. And eventually, when he tells her, like, she says, what is our heart's desire? Vengeance, justice, fire, and blood. And I feel like after this cuts, he tells her absolutely everything, and including the names. But it takes so long to, like, get around to actually saying things in plain language, because he is so confused by her reaction to everything and her defiance of him that they just like go in a circle for a little while.
Yeah, there's a bit when he first says, it doesn't matter, and she says, he's promising her, you're going to have Dorn. He even says, you have my word, if that even means anything to you. But he says, and your brother, the brother Quentin, has a harder road to walk. And she's like, what are you what road? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. And she says, you are fucking, what are you holding back from me? I'm fucking tired of your secrets. Tell me the rest, or fucking just name Quentin as your heir and be fucking done with it and take my head off. Like, I'm tired of these games. And instead of answering her, to again, right to your point about the way he seems to handle sharing information, instead of just answering her fucking question, he
has to be this dramatic proclamation shit.
Right. These men in these books are, like, so fucking dramatic, these dudes.
So dramatic.
They are worse than if being dramatic is a negative, and in this one small case I'm using it as a negative. Every man in this book is 10 times more dramatic than any of the women that have ever been introduced. These dudes, they are all such drama queens. It is wild to me. So yeah, instead of telling her the truth, you really think I would hurt my children or my brother's children? I can't believe you would think of that, And then he ends up telling her that, these folks are being taken care of. They're locked up, but they're safe and they have everything they need. And he's talking about some of the sand snakes there. He says that Ilaria and the babies are at the water gardens and they're okay. They're safe as well. And then there's something about Garen that comes up. And the Fowlers, Jane and Jenilyn Fowler.
Yeah, let's see. Here it is. Doriath stalks about knocking oranges off the trees with her morning star, and Elia and Obella have become the terror of the pools. It has not been so long since you were playing in those pools. You used to ride the shoulders of an older girl, a tall girl with wispy yellow hair. Jane Fowler, or her sister Jenilyn, and Fryn, her father was a smith, her hair was brown. Garen was my favorite, though. When I rode Garen, no one could defeat us, not even Nim and that green-haired Tyroshi girl. That green-haired girl was the Archon's daughter. I was to have sent you to Tyrosh in her place. You would have served the Archon as a cupbearer and met with your betrothed in secret. But your mother threatened to harm herself if I stole another of her children, and I could not do that to her. And she says, is that where Quentin's gone? To Tyrosh? And he doesn't answer. He just says, I need to know how you found out he was where he was. Because this shit is supposed to be, who's the leak? What the fuck? Your brother went with Cletus Ironwood, Maester Kedri, and 3 of Lord Ironwood's best young knights on a long and perilous voyage with an uncertain welcome at its end. He has gone to bring us back our heart's desire.
Yeah, this is I don't know exactly what this is, but it sounds really fucking interesting. It sounds like he is on his way to try to hook up with Daenerys.
Mm-hmm.
But this is so different from anything that happened on the show, and I am here for it.
Yep.
Like, if they're really trying to like find her and the dragons and bring her back. Now, this fucks his plan up with Arianne, though, because, you know, he was expecting it to be a male heir and he was going to marry his daughter off, and instead we're getting a woman, we're getting Daenerys. So Arianne obviously can't, you know, I don't think he's trying to marry her off, so maybe Quentin, if that's still Doran's plan of having one of his kids, you know, end up on the throne with a Targaryen. But even if that's not part of the plot, and the point is just to get her support and bring her back west, that's still, like, I'm here to see this. And I don't, like, the green-haired girl, I'm assuming that's not anybody I need to know. Like, I'm assuming that's not a character I'm expected to know anything about, and that I haven't met her or seen her anywhere. I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Good. Because nothing felt familiar about that. So yeah, y'all. This is going in a direction that I just simply did not even imagine. And you know, it's really funny too. There was a whole line, and I'm sorry to talk about the show, you guys, but I can't fucking help it.
Don't apologize. We're done apologizing for talking about the show. It has to happen sometimes.
So there was a whole bit at the very, very beginning, and it was a sort of a thread throughout the series. Sometimes it would get dropped for a long period, and then it would get picked back up, right? But there was always, like, these whispers, you know, you still have friends. There are still people who, you know what I mean? But the show never really fleshed that out, though.
No.
There was nobody in Westeros or, you know, that was, like, still rooting for her that I ever fucking saw. So I kept hearing, oh, you have friends. Bitch, do you? Where they at, though? But this is like, oh, no. People were actively plotting. There were, like, plans in place.
Yep.
They didn't, like, happen. You know, they got thwarted. Things went wrong. Viserys was a real asshole. He ended up getting a pot of gold dumped on his head. Who knew that was going to happen, right? But it's really, really cool to see. Oh, yeah, no. People was really trying to make some shit happen.
Yes.
And so I really love that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were baffled at the direction the show decided to take with this, where they just completely leave this plot line out. They do nothing with the Sand Snakes. And it really was like, well, then what did you do any of this for? You know, it just... that was the Sand Snakes were really like the nail in the coffin of us all going,
oh my God.
Okay,
Y'all,
they don't know, they are not going to, like, actually honor the plot.
Mad.
Oh my God, I was so angry.
Everybody was angry. Like, I was fine. I was watching the show. I didn't give a fuck. But y'all were on the Twitters, on the Facebooks. Y'all was mad as shit. Y'all was talking in caps lock. Everybody was mad.
Oh my God. I will never, like, I was so interested in how they would do them. And they not only made them identical to one another so that you don't even, like, there's nothing distinctive about them as people, but then they had to throw in that bad pussy line and just turn them into a fucking joke.
Never forget.
Ugh, never. I will never forget.
I remember the excitement of, like, when we found out we were going, you know, that they were going to be included. Everybody was hype about it. And then it was just, you know, sad trombone. And I just, like, I distinctly remember, like, just people everywhere being like, fuck this show.
Forever, for real.
Oh man. But I get it though, and it's funny because, like, I met the Sand Snakes, but I didn't really get a lot of them. I'm assuming that they don't stay locked up forever, and maybe I get to see a little bit more of them. But just a little bit that I got so far in the book, they're such distinct characters from each other, you know. And a friend of mine shared a clip the other day. It was because it was the anniversary of the Queen of Thorns. What was her name? Diana Riggs.
Yes.
I guess it was the anniversary of her passing, so it popped up in his memory. So he shared it, and it was the clip of Lady Olenna talking to Ilaria plotting with her, with Illyria. Ilaria?
Ilaria, yeah.
And the daughters are like standing off. Basically, Lady Olenna is like, shut up while grown folks is talking. It was that moment. But yeah, but just like, you know, like, so close.
Yeah, I think Ilaria, I think is how I would say it usually. It's so hard
she's
because
so
then
beautiful.
Yeah, she really is.
That actress is. Oh, every time she shows up, she pops up in like a couple of different BBC shows over the years. And she was in.
Yeah, I'm doing a rewatch of Bones, and she was in the last episode I watched. Actually.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she plays like the British version of Seeley Booth. She works for like
I remember that.
Or,
DCS. I remember because they go to London, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that episode.
And she was the professor that's like romancing or attempting to romance Bones is the husband from oh my god, the show with David Tennant about the kid getting murdered.
Broadchurch.
Broadchurch, thank you. Oh my god, he is so fine. Like,
just
he's
like the same.
Older, and they really do not try to make him look too cute in Broadchurch because he's like meant to be beaten down and grieved and sad. But in Bones, they're trying to make him look like he would be a bit of a playboy, and he's slightly younger. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this guy, him and her next to each other as a team. I was like, they are light years hotter.
Which dad in Broadchurch was he?
The dad of the kid that got murdered, that cheats on her.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Remember
he's
him?
very attractive. Yeah, I had to take 2 minutes to picture his face. He is very, very attractive.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's this guy. Where do I know him from? And then I realized both of them. It's like, you know, prestige television stuff. And I would just like to say I wouldn't mind them getting their own spin-off show, except he gets burned to death eventually. So
it's always like the same actors on the BB shows from that certain period. They just pop up over and over and over again. All right, I took us off track there. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I don't even know how we got on the Bones, but how did we get there?
Oh, because you said that.
Oh, we're talking about Illyria. Yeah, because she's so goddamn pretty. I used to know her name, but I can't. It's like Indira or something. But she's so fucking gorgeous. All right, but so that's how this chapter ends. Is him telling her about the vengeance, and I just feel like I don't know. You know what's bumming me out though? My last thing I'll say about this before we go to the next chapter is just because George Martin has written this paragraph in this particular book does not in fact mean that they ever fucking make it there, right? So I'm getting like myself all really excited about some shit that I might not fucking see. And so y'all who have read the books that are like maybe laughing at me right now, that shit's not cool. That's not okay. Like, it just occurred to me just this
Called
second
out.
that not cool, man, not cool. But yeah, like, I'm glad y'all got to be here for it in real time, as my brain just reminded myself that I might not necessarily get this. I have no idea if he makes it to this part of the story. And you guys have no idea how sad I am right now. Like, I am heartbroken.
And I just had to like mention that it was recent on a thread that RoShawn found out in the patrons only group.
Y'all,
that the upcoming book isn't even supposed to be the last in the series.
I
thought you knew that.
No, I thought we have all been waiting for the last book. I had no it just like it never occurred to me that we were waiting for 2 or 3 more fucking books, not even for a second.
Yep.
I almost canceled the whole podcast. I like real talk. I posted that shit in the group, and then I almost texted you like, I'm not into this anymore. Like, I'm not doing it. I was so fucking mad. I was completely caught off guard. I had no idea. Y'all, I thought it was because like a little piece of me is like, it's one book. He can just do one book. Maybe he'll do it. It's one book, right? He can squeeze it out. There's still, like Homer chasing that barbecue. It's still good. It's still good, right? Bitch, there is no way in the world that he's finishing a series. That motherfucker don't have 2 books in him. Oh, I am disgusted.
I'm so sorry.
You should be. You really should be. You're lucky you're making it up to me with this Beyonce concert.
That's definitely all me. Credit completely to me. I even paid for those tickets with my own money. Definitely
Like,
happened.
I basically contributed to my own ticket.
She did, guys. RoShawn threw cash in when she didn't know she was coming.
I just
Which
wanted
is part
you to have
of
a good
the logic that I used to get her to fly down, because she was starting to be like, I can't do it. And I was like, you literally paid for these tickets, so I don't know what you're thinking you're doing, but you're coming. News for you.
Thought I was contributing to a good time for y'all. Like, who knew?
All right. Elaine.
This was so good. But also, like, the Ariane chapter, like, the build-up was a lot of, like, we got a lot of her pacing around in her room alone, and we get pages and pages and pages of them just trying to fucking get Robin up out of bed and dressed, because the weather is turning and they need to get out from the Erie. So the first couple pages is really just trying to get this little boy up. But we do get, and we talked about this last time we had the chapter with him, and I think Austin in one of his info corners may have mentioned it. But this thing about the way they're medicating Robin really comes to bear in this chapter. Because the Maester is like, because they want to drug him to make this transit easier.
Yeah.
Because it's very dangerous, and they can't have him having one of his shaking fits, and and somebody's like, we can just drug him and strap him to a mule.
and like, is that incorrect? It is not.
I thought that they should have considered it a little bit. I thought it got hand waved a little too quickly.
I kind of agree.
But the Maester is like, okay, first of all, he's asking a bunch of times, is this little boy fucking bleeding? Is he having nosebleeds? And then when they finally convince him to basically dose him, he says, all right, but this is it for like 6 months. Like, if we give him this medicine now, we have got to fucking calm down. Yeah. Because, and he doesn't say much more, but the implication really is like, we're going to kill this little boy. We keep drugging him like this. And I know we had talked about the idea of what they're giving him is basically like, they give him the sweet milk, which is different from milk of the poppy, but I think Austin says it's still sort of like an opiate though, right?
Sweet sleep,
I believe. What did
I
call it?
Sweet milk.
I did.
Which I think is
a
branded item from Nestle.
There's like a milk. It should be. But we had talked about how it's possible what we see Robin going through are withdrawals from opiates, and the shaking and the seizures and the vomiting and all that is him going through withdrawal.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me curious about that is, and it's an interesting question, and I don't want to take up too much time, but the idea of what it would be like for a child, because we know from addiction, especially in popular culture, which is not necessarily an accurate portrayal, but in our imagination, when people become addicted, they crave it, they want it, they ask for it, they seek it. And I don't recall Robin ever like begging,
that's
for
true.
his medicine, but because
he may
he's
not
so
understand
young,
that's what's giving him
exactly. So
yeah.
I'm wondering, and there's no, I can't think of a piece of media that involves someone as young as him being on those type of painkillers, that type of medication, and what that looks like in a child. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know if he would be conscious that I feel terrible and I want you to give me this God damn it, sweet sleep. because it makes me feel better. So that's the only thing that makes me think about maybe it not being like a withdrawal and an addiction sort of thing. But that's like just a really small thing that I just thought of. That's all.
No, but that makes sense. I get what you mean. So yeah, Elaine is going into his chamber after this boy threw his chamber pot at the maester.
They are like, girl, be careful.
Yeah. And when she comes in, he's like, did the maester send you? And she's like, no, I just heard that you were having a bad day. And
every word out of her mouth is a lie to this little boy. And it's coming out so easy. It's coming out. So she is getting really good at this, y'all. She's getting real good.
Yeah, she is.
She is becoming this Elaine. She is, it's like a different person, it's whew. Anyway,
it's weird, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this. We have to go, but I promise I'll read you 2 tales of the Winged Knight when we reach the gates. 3, he said at once. No matter what you offered him, Robert always wanted more. 3, she agreed. Might I let some sun in? No, the light hurts my eyes. Come to bed. And she just goes, and I'm just going to open them a little bit to see your pretty little face.
Mm-hmm.
And when she turns back, he's propped up looking at her, and she's like, you look very strong this morning, my lord. Robert had spindly arms and legs, a soft concave chest and little belly, and eyes that were always red and runny.
It is remarkable. She has really, and somebody is like, oh, you have such a way with him. She really does. She has learned how to manage this little boy. And she ends up telling somebody later on in the chapter too. And it's wild that at such a young age, he has developed such an ego that he has to be placated in this fashion, and that it works so well on him. This is like, I'm going to speak in generalizations here about gender for just a second, you guys, so forgive me. But this is such a man thing, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to stroke their ego and manipulate them into doing the things that need to be done, because you, as a woman, you can't just boss them around. So you have to almost make it like it's their idea to do the thing that needs to be done. And the fact that he needs to be managed this way at such a young age, to me, is just like, but
chilling.
It's chilling is a very good way to put it. But then, you have to keep in mind that, he is very spoiled from his mother, that he is also in a position of great power and privilege by his station. So you have to handle him very differently. But she is so adept at it. It's really a master class of how to manage people like this,
Yep. That's like, so this is, we've talked about the differences in the way that somebody like Sansa approaches the world versus somebody like Arya. And Arya is learning some tools in her House of the Black and White for managing life in the way that she knows how. And that is also what is happening with Sansa. It just seems a lot less impressive and a lot less dramatic to watch. It's less compelling to read about in some ways because it's so frustrating. But she is developing a very specific set of skills here that are going to serve her. It's just
absolutely
a boring set of skills that we don't respect because it feels weak. And, it feels weak because you are pretending to be weak. That's part of it. Is like you are imitating weakness in order to manipulate and successfully get somebody to think like, later on she's like, I'm so scared, but I know you're not scared. Like, this isn't awesome to read about because it feels so sad, and it is sad, but this is what we have made women be like because we don't let them be strong. So
right, they can't be stronger than whatever man is around them.
Exactly.
And that
you're allowed to be strong when it's about like withstanding what is done to you by men. That's the strength that we are supposed to display. But when it comes to like strength in comparison to the primary men in our lives, we are supposed to keep that shit quiet.
I love there's a bit where he's like holding onto her so tight that she can't even breathe. It's the same part, I think, when she says that, you know, she's so scared. And she like asks him to hold her tighter, but he's literally hanging on to her for dear life. She can't even breathe.
Oh man, the whole thing is so the reason that they're going down the mountain is that winter is coming. And even though the Erie is impregnable, which is like great and wonderful during regular weather, now we are reaching a point where nobody is going to be able to access them to send them food. They won't be able to resupply. And they have to descend to where it's still autumn, which is like a pretty big fucking weakness for an impregnable palace to have. But I guess and I love when she's like trying to find ways to bribe him, and she says you can have as many lemon cakes as you like. 100? Can I have 100? And she's just like, yeah, sure have 100. I don't know.
Right. Meanwhile, they don't even have lemons.
Right. Yes.
Because later on it comes up.
Yeah, he's like, I brought you a present, and she's like, oh my god, please let it be fucking lemons so that I don't have to hear it. I want 100 lemon cakes and 5 tails. I'd like
now
to
it's
give
5.
100 spankings and 5 slaps. You would not dare behave like this if Peter were here. The little lord had a good, healthy fear of his stepfather.
There is all right, so I'm looking here, and there is a thing called sweet milk. And it says that Robert asked for it. Well, it's weird because they call him Robert, and then he's Robin. I get so turned around.
Yeah, it does get a little...
there's a bit here where he's... because she's saying to him... she is told that... Well, I'll say what he says. He says, Maester Coleman put something vile in my milk last night. I could taste it. I told him I wanted sweet milk, but he wouldn't bring me any. So sweet milk is a thing, but there's also sweet sleep that's a thing. And then there's milk of the poppy that's a thing. So there are 3 different things. What is sweet milk also like? I
think it's just milk with honey in it.
All right, so that's not necessarily a medicine. That's just something he would want that's like tasty. So. Okay. Yeah. And then I don't know if we know what he put in his drink that was vile, but I feel like there's a conversation at the very beginning of her chapter. Because I like, what did he put in the drink?
I'm trying to go back to the beginning here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. Have all the furnishings been covered? Best make certain of it. It's only me, sweet Robin. And I don't see anything about...
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
I could have swore that somebody else had said something to her. Maybe he says it twice. But anyway, there's something in his drink from the night before that he didn't like. And I don't know, like... Because when we get later on to like the end of this chapter, where I guess the biggest reveal is basically Robin better be in fear for his life.
Yep.
But I'm assuming that part of the plan hasn't started yet, so I don't know if I'm supposed to think that whatever he put in the drink is tied to the reveal we get from Littlefinger about, you know, how easy things are going to be once Robin's dead. But maybe it is. Maybe that's started. So I don't know.
Well, okay, let's... I'm trying to recenter myself here. No, that's
sorry.
Okay. So she manages to like pull him out of bed, but then he goes to kiss her. And as the boy's lips touched her own, she found herself thinking of another kiss. She could still remember how it felt when his cruel mouth pressed down on her own. And again, girl, that's not what happened. He took a song and a kiss and left me nothing but a bloody cloak. And I'm like, you really are clinging to this thing in a way that's alarming a little bit. So he tries to like kiss her again, and she's like, that's enough. We have to get where we're going. And fetch hot water for his bath, but see you don't scald him, and do not pull on his hair when you brush out the tangles. He hates that. One of the squires sniggered until she said, Terence, lay out his lordship's riding clothes and his warmest cloak. Giles, you may clean up that broken chamber pot. Giles Grafton made a face. I'm no scrub woman. Do as Lady Elaine commands, or Lothar Brune will hear of it, said Maester Coleman. And I just love that. I wish that every time somebody was a little brat, I could just be like, you're going to go clean up that broken pile of shit over there. Literal shit. Enjoy.
But that would mean there were more piles of literal shit in your life. And I don't think anybody wants that.
Oh, here it is. He says you put something vile in his milk. Vile? Is he bleeding from the nose? No. Good. That is good.
Yeah, see? What are y'all doing?
Yeah, indeed. Questions that need answers.
And he says, he's the one who's like, we should give him some milk of the poppy and just fucking tie this motherfucker to a mule and call it a day. Mm-hmm. And she reminds him that is just not a good look. He cannot show up into town or wherever they're going, you know. She says like a fucking sack of barley corn. So Peter is supposed to be away at a wedding. Lord Corbray is getting married, and he was one of the lords, the Clarence.
RoShawn,
What's wrong?
Apology.
Why? What's happening?
Give his lordship a cup of sweet milk. That will stop him from shaking on the journey down. He had a cup not 3 days past, and wanted another last night, which you refused him. It was too soon. My lady, you do not understand. Sweet milk is milk in which sweet sleep has been put.
Ah, okay.
So him asking for more of it is him craving it.
Okay, so he is looking for it. All right, all right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this totally went over my head. Full disclosure, when I read these chapters, I was doing the audiobook, and I was super tired, and I'm starting to realize there's a possibility I nodded off a little bit right here. I remember, like, the journey very well, but I think that I was starting to, like, drowse a bit in the midst of this conversation.
I feel like that's what happened to me last week. I just was fucking missing shit left and right. It was no good. Like, I felt like I was reading, but clearly my mind must have been wandering as I was reading.
But he's like, this is gonna like add up, and she says, well, it's better that this adds up than he falls off the mountain during a panic attack, basically. So if Peter were here, he would tell you to do whatever it takes. And he's like, are you sure he wasn't bleeding from his nose? And she says he was sniffing, but I saw no blood.
He is really concerned about these nosebleeds, and I am also now concerned. Something's, maybe, all right. So, she starts thinking to herself that she wishes that Peter was here to help with all this, and we find out that, you know, he's gone. He went to a wedding, a match he set up for himself, and is worth a lot of money. And it meant that she got left behind to sort of close up what was left of this sort of keep that they're in the castle. That is itself called the Eyrie, right?
Correct.
And then the area is called the Vale, right?
Correct.
So the Eyrie is the sort of like structure. The Vale is the geography, the area, and then where they are going, they keep calling it Sky, and I'm like, that can't be right. But they're basically descending the mountain to go down to where the regular folks live. I guess, right?
Yes.
All right, and I don't know if that's the same as the Mud Gate. That's a whole other.
That's
thing,
a different, yeah.
Right? I wish that there was, there's a map at the beginning of the book of the area, but it doesn't, like, Where's my phone? My little magnifier on it. Oh shit! I have to go to the drugstore. I completely forgot that. Fuck. Anyway, I just picked up my phone to use the magnifier, and there was a text message from my drugstore telling me that I have a prescription. So yeah, it doesn't really. I wish I could get a better idea of like what this looks like. You know, the castle where everything is, so I could get a better idea.
I'm sure that there's like a good. You know, I'll try and find one. As we continue to go through this, I'll do a little bit of Googling on my end, because I think I can multitask that a bit better than you can. Well, keeping us on course here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the map here, and it just shows where everything is. But, so they're trying to get down to this other area, and it is a really harrowing journey, you guys. This descent and this bucket, I did not care for it. But...
They've like the ascent with Kat had been so harrowing,
and
now
terrible.
We're getting a descent in snowy conditions that can potentially turn icy if they take too long, and the sun has gone down. Like, so yeah, it's really scary.
In these baskets to go down, it's like a winch. It's very similar to like the thing that goes up and down the wall, right? Like sort of like a crank, and it just like goes all the way. Like a elevator seems entirely too generous of a word.
Yes,
for what they are doing. So they ride together. He wants to be in a basket with Elaine alone, just the two of them, and it's going. And then like a gust of wind comes, and it starts banging up against the side of the mountain and like waving.
No.
No,
yeah,
thank you.
There's a part later where Maya Stone is crossing, and her cloak gets grabbed and yanks her, and I just like my heart was in my throat reading that. I was like, "How dare you!" Ugh. Anyway,
it's terrible. There's also we get this Maya. I really enjoy Maya Stone. She is delightful. And everybody keeps saying that like she's part mule or half mule herself. She cares about the mules more than she cares about people.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like it bothers her at all. So I chose also not to be bothered by it. But I thought she was just delightful. I like a no-nonsense bitch. I really do.
She's the one that led Kat up. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember.
Yeah. And she had been sharing about how, like, you know, there's this knight who's going to marry me. And Kat had been like, oh, sweetie, no, he's not. And we find out that indeed he didn't. Which is a bummer.
And we do meet, I think, new to me anyway, this Miranda Royce. And I wanted to ask you about the Royces, because that name is really familiar to me.
Yeah.
Right. So was the Royce who Damon was married to in House of What's Her Face that he calls his bronze bitch? And was she a Royce?
Let's look into this. Royce family, A Song of Ice and Fire.
Because it's also a bronze somebody, and I could be conflating
Bronze
the two.
Jan Royce. And that is a different, but she's called the bronze bitch, and if he's called Bronze Jan, then yeah, probably she was a bitch. She was a bitch. Oh my god, probably she was a Royce. But I feel like the guy in the prologue who is above the wall, who's like a lordling, who's the first one that's like taken down by the others. I feel like he was a Royce as well. I'm trying to see here. When Lord Jan Royce went north with his son Sir Waymar, who was joining the Night's Watch at the Wall, they stopped at Winterfell. After a hunt, Jan defeated both Lord Eddard Stark and Sir Roderick Cassel in the training yard. So yeah, it was Waymar Royce that was going above the wall.
Okay.
And I'm trying to see. Oh, there was a Royce with Robert when he gets wounded by the boar.
Oh.
So that's interesting. And yeah, there's a lot going on with them. They're involved with some stuff here, but some of it I can't tell you about quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, she is around, and at some point, I don't know when he gets the. At some point, somebody gives her a heads up about Royce. I guess it's Baelish. Before this moment, like at some point in her time there, he tells her to be really careful about being around Miranda Royce, because she likes to play the merry fool, he says, but underneath she's shrewder than her father. Be careful what you say around her. So that happened, earlier on, and then we get Miranda in this POV chapter, and I can see why people just tell all their business to her.
Oh, yeah.
Because
definitely.
She seems really fun. She seems like somebody that's super fun to talk with, super fun to gossip with. She seems like she has just enough tea to make you understand I got to give up something good to get something better. And even Sansa is like, God, you know what? I miss this. I haven't had this since, what was her friend Jane Poole? Was it Jane or Jane? I think it's Jane, right?
Jane, yeah.
And she's just like, God, I haven't had anybody to like kiki with since Jane. This is kind of cool. And I was worried.
Right?
I was really worried. Like, I like to think that, like, I was scared that Sansa might regress into her Sansa-ness and out of her Elaine-ness. I guess it'll be a test to see just how far she's come. I'm hoping she doesn't do anything silly, like spilled. Like when they tell her that Jon Snow is the fucking Lord Commander of the Wall. I was concerned.
Look, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Hold on.
Sorry.
So first of all, I just want to mention to you, I looked it up, and yes, Rhea Royce was the one who was married to Damon.
Hey, look at your girl.
You got it.
Look at your girl.
And yeah, she falls from her horse and cracks her skull upon a stone. And in the book, it is not murder. But
I was about to say that. I was like, that's not what happened. But then I forgot that it is.
Yeah, he is very much somewhere else with witnesses when this all happens. He's like,
really, yeah,
in another country, basically.
Oh God, they just made him murder her for no good reason. People just the choices that we make. But all right, but I got ahead of us, so I'll let you get us realigned.
So, well, yeah, when the meeting of Miranda, I want to read some of her, like, quotes specifically, because I love her so much. And the fact that we can tell there is something underlying all of her good humor and all of her jokes is what makes me love her the most, because it's just like, she is somebody that I can understand taking on this persona. And it's probably the way that I would try and play things myself, And so, and everybody seems to like her. There's a real sense of like, she doesn't seem to have any real enemies. So first we see Maya Stone. His lordship is being bathed and dressed. He needs to make some haste. It's getting colder. Can you feel it? The wind could be worse, but it will be after dark. If he bathes much longer, we'll be trapped up here all winter with nothing to eat except each other. Elaine did not know what to say to that, and I was like, yeah, that feels actually like not a joke. My lord, will you ride down with me? Too brusque, Elaine thought. She should have greeted him with a smile and told him how strong and brave he looks. Oh boy. Like, it's really interesting because he is such a child, but this feels like the kind of thing that a woman who's dealing with an abusive spouse would be, how she would handle him, just like somebody who is really temperamental, and she can be on the receiving end of that at any instant and has to really manage him so carefully. And I love, he says, I want Elaine. I'll only go with her. The bucket can hold all three of us. I just want Elaine. You smell all stinky like a mule. As you wish. Maya's face showed no emotion. Oh my God, this kid. I really hate it. So yeah, the whole bucket thing, and she says, will you please hold me tight? Because, you know, she's trying to make him feel like he's not the scared one here. But he's already squeezing her so fucking hard that she could hardly breathe.
Right.
Oh, God. So she says something about how, that's right. Here it is. Lady Miranda Royce shows up, and the first thing she says, my lord, you've grown so big. You will be taller than me soon. And right away, you're like, oh, okay. She gets it. She knows how to handle it. Maya cannot be bothered. She has no interest. Because she's not going to be around him. This is just their one trip, and then she probably won't have to deal with him for like another year minimum, you know? I had heard you were beautiful. I see it's true. My lady is kind to say so. Kind? How boring that would be. I aspire to be wicked. You must tell me all your secrets on the ride down. May I call you Elaine? If you wish, my lady. But you'll get no secrets from me. And I'm like, we'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see. I love this bit, too. She asks how old she is, and she says 14. And then it just says, she had decided that Elaine should be older than Sansa Stark. I don't know why. I forgot about that.
So
she keeps insisting that she calls her Randa, and she keeps calling her my lady, and she's just like, Randa, trying like this forced sort of familiarity, you know.
Randa is such an odd name too. It like, I know that it's short for Miranda, but I think if I had the name Miranda, I would automatically wind up with Mira. Like, people usually take the first part of their name. And choosing Randa, there was a guy at my school whose name was Joseph, and he went by Seth.
That's like, we used to know somebody whose name was Ryan, and his nickname was Jan.
Weird, right? I don't dislike it. It's
but
just
also,
sort of like, okay.
But I'm a RoShawn, and I go by Sean. Which I know people will go, oh, well, that's different, though. Because Sean is its own name by itself. But technically,
except
I go
when
by the
I
second
do
half
it,
of my name.
because I call you Ro-Ro. But RoShawn doesn't like it. So that's the thing. She didn't choose that nickname. I
did not. And it's I had that nickname already. And it took a long time to get rid of it.
It's like when people call me Nat. I'm like,
oh my God.
No. For me,
who would do that?
You will take the last part of Natasha. It's Tasha or Tosh. You call me Nat. Austin Armenio. He called me Nat.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah. I had to nip that shit in the bud. Austin's listening to this going, yeah, I did.
Oh, my God. I don't remember that at all. That is hysterical.
I had somebody else do that. One of Owen's family members, I think. And I had to be like, no. Like, as soon as they were like, so, what if I call you Nat? And I just was like, absolutely not. No. Just firm no. I just, right away, cut it off. We had a letter from your father, she said, as casually as if they were sitting with their septa doing needlework. He's on his way home, he says, and he hopes to see his darling daughter soon. He writes that Lionel Corbray seems well pleased with his bride, and even more so with her dowry. I do hope Lord Lionel remembers which one he needs to bed.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Lady Waynwood turned up with the Knight of 9 Stars for the wedding feast, Lord Peter says, to everyone's astonishment. Anya Waynwood? Truly? Was there more? Not from your father, no, but we've had other birds. The war goes on, everywhere but here. River Run has yielded, but Dragonstone and Storm's End still hold for Lord Stannis. Lady Lysa was so wise to keep us out of it. Yes, she was the very soul of wisdom, that good lady. I love that.
At one point when they first meet, she asks Elaine Sansa if she's still a virgin. And she says yes. And she's like, oh, saving yourself for Lord Robert.
Oh, my God. Ew.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I love this little bit, too.
Night's Watch has a boy commander, some bastard son of Eddard Starks. Jon Snow? She blurted out, surprised. Snow? Yes, it would be snow, I suppose. And she, like, really, like, you shouldn't know that, you know? It is possible that this could be something that gives her away, but
Absolutely.
I think it's too small a thing to really do any harm here. It's just, you know, her immediate reaction to say it. I was like, eh.
Yeah. I was really worried, too, when she blurted out like that, but it doesn't seem like Miranda really clocks it. But I was just like, oh, my God. But what we get is a moment of Sansa being like, fuck, that's somebody I hadn't thought about in a minute. And she does the whole quantify. Oh, he's only a half-brother. But still, all the rest of them are dead now, so he's the only brother that I have left. And then she thinks, well, fuck, now I'm a bastard, too. Like, no better than him, just like him. And it would be really nice to see him again, which is probably the nicest thing she's ever thought about Jon Snow, which is that it would be really nice to see him again. And it's kind of sad because you had to be, like, dragged through hell and back.
Yeah.
And lose literally your entire family as far as you know before it occurs to you that it might be nice to see Jon Snow.
Yeah, she had to be brought low. Very, very low.
Yeah.
Low.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love when they're talking about Lady Waynwood's ward. Well, I pray he proves a worthy knight. I pray he gets the pox. He has a bastard daughter by some common girl, you know. My lord father had hoped to marry me to Harry, but Lady Waynwood would not hear of it. I do not know whether it was me she found unsuitable or just my dowry. I do need another husband. I had one once, but I killed him. You did? Oh, yes. He died on top of me, in me, if truth be told. You do know what goes on in a marriage bed, I hope. That must have been dreadful, my lady. Him dying there, I mean, whilst he was fucking me? It was disconcerting, certainly. Not to mention discourteous. He did not even have the common decency to plant a child in me.
God.
Old men have weak seed, so here I am, a widow, but scarce used. Harry could have done much worse. I dare say that he will. Lady Waynwood will more like marry him to one of her granddaughters, or one of Bronze Jan's.
Yeah. This turns up to be so much more important than I even realized as I was listening to her do this bit, right? Because I'm just like, who is this fucking Harry the heir? And like, what are we talking about here? What are we doing, y'all? What are we doing? And it ends up being like really, really important. And it says that, you know, she doesn't, Sansa doesn't say anything to any of this. She's just like, as you say, you know, which is a really like non-committal thing to say. Like, girl, I guess. And once again calls her my lady and gets corrected. You know, you need to call me Randa. And then she's like, say it with me.
And then I fear I must apologize to you. You will think me a dreadful slut, I know. But I betted that pretty boy Marillion. I did not know that he was a monster. He sang beautifully and could do the sweetest things with his fingers. I would never have taken him to bed if I had known he was going to push Lady Lysa through the moon door. I do not bed monsters, as a rule.
And then stares right in her fucking face to see what her reaction is going to be to this little bit of information.
You are prettier than me, but my breasts are larger. The maesters say large breasts produce no more milk than smaller ones, but I do not believe it. Have you ever known a wet nurse with small teats? Yours are ample for a girl your age, but as they are bastard breast, I shan't concern myself with them.
What a weird thing to do and say. Very strange.
I love her so much.
I really don't know what this was. It was so odd. And then after she says that, she like edges in closer and with a little bit of gossip. And she's like, you know, did you know that Maya's not a maid? You know. And Sansa actually already knew this because, you know, people talk, and she had heard one of the other ladies whispering about it. So she concedes that she did know, and she heard it from Maddie, and they talk a little bit about one that Maddie's got a big
You can't
mouth.
skip over.
She says, of course she did. She has a mouth as big as her thighs, and her thighs are enormous.
I fell out. Like, I do not enjoy a body shaming joke usually, but there is something about the way she says things where there's like, it's like super judgmental, but there's also no judgment. It's weird
very
combo.
matter of fact.
Yeah,
you
know, and
like
so I just was like, I don't know, I was losing it.
It's that I'm just making an observation. I'm not adding any sort of moral judgment on it. I am just merely telling you what a thing is. And the thing is, she's got some big ass thighs. Like, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what it is. But, and she does the same thing with, like, you know, Sansa's breast. And I think there's another bit later on where she kind of leans into the same behavior where it's just like, it's got, I call it like I see it energy, which can also be really abusive, and people can hide behind that, you know. But so far, it's very much just like, I'm just a truth teller, you know.
Yeah. And this is when Elaine, Sir Lothar is fond of her. More than fond. Lothar Brune? Does she know? He has no hope, poor man. My father's tried to make a match for Maya, but she'll have none of them. She is half a mule, that one.
Again.
And I like this, that Elaine gives her a little something, but it's not her own information. So she's like making conversation, but she's not really exposing herself, which is well done, I think.
And this is the same moment, too, when she starts to realize that she's missed this type of interaction. And it says, despite herself, she found herself warming to the older girl, which is a little dangerous. Because once you start feeling comfortable with somebody and liking them, then your guard comes down. Yeah. And I need her guard to be up at all times. So, Sansa had wondered to herself this very question that she says out loud. Do you think that Sir Lothar likes her as she is in the mail and leather, talking about Maya Stone, or do you think he wants her like all draped up like a princess?
He's a man. He dreams of her naked, which probably correct. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
So then it turns to, do you think your dad's gonna get remarried? And of course, some jokes about his little finger. Which apparently had never even occurred to Elaine that this might be on the docket for him. Yeah. And it's really interesting because, like, so later on, when she kisses him hello, and he's just like, that was not a good kiss hello, and he makes her, like, really kiss him. But she gave him that kiss hello in front of other people. Like, she was trying to keep things on the DL, and he's faulting her for it, even though that was the smart thing to do. And, like, this question about, like, oh, is he going to remarry? I would be, like, instinctively going, oh, he's going to try and marry her. But he can't, because that's his daughter, so he keeps saying. So it's like, do you have any predictions on if he's going to try and marry anybody? What that would be like? Who it might be? How he would play this?
I don't really know because I can't remember who the eligible women are in this area. Like, I can't remember. I mean, she's making it sound like she's like Miranda is an option, but I really don't have any theories or predictions. I really don't.
That's fine. I was just asking. So this is the part where we come to this, like, little, a yard across and no more than 8 yards long. That's nothing. Oh my God, fucking kill me. That sounds like, oh my God. So Maya's like, I'm going to go ahead first and then I'll come back for yours. But as Maya heads over, Elaine is like, this dude is about to lose his shit. I have to deal with this and get him across before he has a chance to completely melt down. So she does the hold my hand, help me get across. I know you're not scared. I'm not. Not you. You're my winged knight, Sir Sweet Robin. The winged knight could fly higher than the mountains. And Lady Miranda immediately is like, yeah, he could fly. And she's just going along with it. Again, I love her. Like, just immediately, yes, I understand what's happening here and how we have to do this. And Maya Stone is laughing, lifting Robert for a hug, Be careful, Elaine told her. He can hurt you flailing. You wouldn't think so, but he can. And he has been shaking, but it seems like he doesn't completely like go into a punching and kicking fit. It seems like he's shaking, but he manages to get over that pretty quickly, which is nice.
Yeah, they get right across, and Miranda ends up saying to Elaine after this is done, so you're brave as well as beautiful, and seeming like very impressed. And Robin, I'm assuming Robin is still standing there because she says in response to that compliment, "No, I'm not. I was so scared I don't think I could have crossed without Lord Robert." And then she turns to Maya Stone and was like, "And you almost fell." So
they put him in a little spot on the rocks to be like out of the wind.
Mm-hmm.
I think what she meant there was basically, if I hadn't had to be strong on his behalf, I couldn't have made myself do it.
Okay.
Which I think all of us have had moments like a friend needs us to do something that we could never have done for ourselves, but for them it's just immediately like, yeah, I'll take care of it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, when she's Maya fucking Stone, when she says you almost fell, she's like, I beg your pardon, I never fucking fall. Have you not heard about me? I love it so much. And then fucking Elaine is like, no, almost. I said almost. Weren't you scared? And then Maya shares a story of remembering a man throwing her in the air when she was a little kid and throwing her so high up in the clouds, but always catching her, and that she would laugh so hard that she would wet herself. And she was never afraid when he was throwing her because he always knew he would be there to catch her. And then one day he wasn't. Men come and go. They lie or they die and they leave you. But the mountain is not a man, and a stone is a mountain's daughter. I trust my father and I trust my mules. I won't ever fall. And so we know that she's Robert's bastard, but I don't know if that's memory. Is that Robert? Because Robert doesn't strike me as a type to ever have any good, sweet memories with any of his fucking kids. But I guess
that is Robert, yeah.
So
there's a note here from Austin. Maya, when she was born, Robert was 16 or 17. So he was real young.
All right.
And he did seem to legitimately care for her. In a Cersei chapter early in this book, we learn that Robert considered bringing her to live in King's Landing, but Cersei subtly threatened to kill her if he did so. So he left her in the Vale and broke contact.
Gotcha. Because we know that the Vale is where Robert was a ward of Aaron's, right? So right. I had forgotten how young he would have been when he had her as a baby. So, all right, that does check out a little bit more. I was thinking like old King Robert, whoring around and everything. Definitely. But this is when he's much younger, possibly one of his first kids. So yeah, he would have been like an entirely different dude. All right, so where are we at now?
They get to their apartments. Miranda invites Sansa to share her bed because it's big enough for 4 people. And she says, you should count yourself lucky that I'm so tired. Usually when ladies share my bed, they have to pay a pillow tax and tell me all about the wicked things they've done. What if they haven't done any wicked things? Why, then they must confess all the wicked things they want to do. Not you, of course. I can see how virtuous you are just by looking at those rosy cheeks and big blue eyes of yours. I hope your feet are warm. I do hate bedmates with cold feet.
I don't think she's safe spending the night with her, but, I guess it's out of her hands.
Yep. Like, how, do you think she would, hurt her, or?
Oh, no, I just mean, I don't think she can keep her guard up. I feel like Miranda has got just a way of getting you to say things and confirm things you don't even realize you're saying or confirming. I don't want her spending any time alone with her, quite frankly. I just don't. And I just feel like this is very, very dangerous. And Sansa's going to fuck around and let something slip. And it's a concern of mine. I was hoping that Peter would like put a kibosh on that whole thing, but I guess it would seem weird to do such
likely.
a thing. And this is when he finds out that Peter's actually here because she doesn't know he's back. Mm-hmm. And she goes to see him, and like you said, she gives him. He has company. He is in there with. Let's see. Did they tell us who these people are?
Eventually,
it's 3 knights.
Byron,
it's like 3
Sir
head
Margarth,
knights.
and Sir Shadrich. Shadrich. Wait, have we met Sir Shadrich?
I thought his name sounded familiar, but I obviously couldn't check it. But I thought
yes,
his name
this
was
is the
familiar
knight
when
that
I read
Brienne met in her search for Sansa, and who mentions that he is also looking for her. Oh my God! He's standing in front of Sansa.
Oh shit!
The Mad Mouse. I think this is that guy.
Oh shit! The guy that goes running towards danger because he's got no good sense.
Let's hope he doesn't.
So they leave the room so that they can talk in private, and we get we start getting the real good here in these last 2 pages. She says, "Oh, hedge knights," and he says, "Hungry knights." There's a difference. And he mentions that the ship, the Merlin King, has returned to Gulltown, and Oswell has some stories to tell. And I feel like I'm supposed to know what's going on there, but you guys, I don't remember. I don't know. Oswell.
Wait,
and then I saw
again?
Oswell.
I'm sorry, I was reading ahead and I missed what you said. You were.
He tells Peter tells Sansa that they can never have too many swords, and he says the Merlin King has returned to Gulltown, and old Oswell has some tales to tell. And she doesn't ask Peter because she says, "I knew better. If he wanted me to know, he would have just fucking told me." But as a reader, I feel like, oh, that's supposed to mean something to me. The Merlin King is supposed to mean something to me, and I can't put my finger on it. And then whenever I see anybody whose name starts with OS, I'm like, is that a Kettle Black?
It is.
Is this a Kettle Black?
It is.
But then I can't keep them all straight. Which Kettle Black is which? So this is Oswell, the one that's supposed to take the black, right? Is it Osney that takes the black, or is it Oswell?
I think that it's Osney that's going to take the black, and I think Oswell is the one who's got a fucking like really intense attitude, and
these fucking Kettle Blacks. It's hard to keep them all straight.
Let me see if Austin gives us some specifications here in the notes, because it's let's see. We learn about Harry the Heir.
All right, Osney is the one that goes to take the black, or Osney's the one that's supposed to. Whether he does or not, I don't know. But he's
that's
the one
what I thought.
To.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
But I think Oswell's the one that seems to be like bad tempered, and was maybe meant to actually do some seduction, perhaps. Like Osney is going to say he did seduction, but I feel like his brother is the one that is around Marjorie the most, and so they were like, well, maybe he can do it, if I'm not mistaken, but I may be mistaken.
Yeah, I can't remember. And this is what happens when you give all these motherfuckers names that are so close together. Mm-hmm. George, R.R. Martin,
George.
Sir.
There's Osney, there's Oswell, and
Osmond.
Osmond, right. So... Yeah, here goes somebody that's like right in the inner circle, but reporting to Peter, as it turns out. So,
and I think we had known that Peter had one of the Kettle Blacks at least giving him the dirt, but I could never remember which one. So I guess it is this one. And then he tells her some more stuff after the kiss. Then he tells her, he says, "This made me laugh so hard because it just felt like." Generally, the way things are written in these books, it's not that it's like written very like like in language that's really elevated, but it also doesn't feel like it's written in ways that we would speak to each other today, right? It's like straddling this other weird space. But this line, "You would not believe half of what is happening in King's Landing." That shit sounded just like something we would say. It really, like, bitch, you would not. Wait till I tell you.
I love this so much.
It really made me
stumbles
laugh.
from one idiocy to the next, helped along by her counsel of the deaf, the dim, and the blind. I always anticipated that she would beggar the realm and destroy herself, but I never expected she would do it quite so fast. It's quite vexing. I had hoped to have 4 or 5 quiet years to plant some seeds and allow some fruit to ripen, but now it's a good thing I thrive on chaos.
I laughed so hard through that whole thing. I really, really, really enjoyed it. What little piece
like, this
in
bitch
order,
is even less competent than I thought.
Like I was prepared for her to be terrible, and it turns out I was not prepared enough. And he says, "What little peace and order the 5 kings have left us will not long survive the 3 queens, I fear." And she says 3 queens, and he does not give any additional information.
He does not.
So it's Cersei and it's Marjorie, right? And the third has to be Daenerys. I'm assuming it's got to be Daenerys, right? But then I'm
Likely.
like, fuck. I can never remember how much Peter knows, and that's partly because Peter also never tells me how much he knows. He doesn't tell anybody
Correct.
how much he knows. But it's one of those moments where she wants him to offer more information, and he is not interested in doing that. So this is when he's like, "I brought you back a gift. It is not lemons. It is not jewels." He opens it, and it is a marriage contract. And she is, like me, stunned. I didn't even know this was on the board. I didn't know we were here. I didn't know this was an option. And she is just like, okay, first of all, I'm already married. You know that. And he reminds her that was a whole different person. That was Ned Stark's daughter, not my daughter. And this isn't even a marriage. This is a betrothal. This is like, the marriage isn't going to happen until Cersei is finished and Sansa is safely widowed. So don't worry about any of this right now. And he says, and also, you have to win the approval of the boy. You know, it's not a done deal. She won't. Lady Waynwood is not going to force him to marry anybody that he doesn't want to marry. Like, she's not doing that. And he drops the Lady Waynwood bit real casual. And she's like, wait, that what?
She's like, that's a real house. What the fuck do they want me for?
Yeah, like, I'm a fucking bastard as far as they know. What could possibly be in it? And he tries to make it like, okay, first of all, you're the Lord Protector's bastard, so that's a different thing, right? That's not just regular shit. And he says, and also, yeah, the Waynwoods, their name and their house, you know, has, you know, means something. But they don't have no money. And people will do a lot for money. And he has been out here buying up their debt. So they kind of owe him.
Yeah.
And so this is all like interesting. This is like, okay, he's like, you know, conniving. He's got some things in motion. This is like, okay, what are we doing here? But then he really breaks down what's happening. And he does it in that way we've seen him do before, where he wants to see how much can she put together. Like, can she get there? If he can feed her, like, enough hints and point her in the right direction, can she get to the conclusion on her own? And I really like this sort of storytelling device because it's very fun to read. And so, yeah, we go through the plan and we find out through this really long, convoluted way. Which I don't think I remember well enough to lead us through. So I don't know if you want to go through all of it for the sake of the listeners.
I'm going to go through all of it for my own sake as well.
Okay.
First of all, he has a bastard daughter by some common girl and another on the way by a different wench. Harry can be a beguiling one. Soft, sandy hair, deep blue eyes, and dimples when he smiles, and very gallant, I am told. And she's like, but this woman has her own sons. This guy, why would he be an heir? And he's like, oh, yeah, 3 sons and daughters and grandsons. Won't they come before Harry? I don't understand. You will. Listen. Lord Jasper Arryn. Begin with him. John Arryn's father. He begot 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. John was the eldest, so the Erie and lordship passed to him. His sister Alice wed Sir Ellis Waynwood. Alice and Alice, isn't that precious? Lord Jasper's younger son, Sir Ronald Arran, wed a Belmore girl, but only rang her once or twice before dying of a bad belly. Their son Elbert was being born in one bed, even as poor Ronald was dying in another down the hall. Are you paying attention? Yes, there was a John and Alice and Ronald, but Ronald died. Good. Now, John Arran married thrice, but his first 2 wives gave him no children. Meantimes, Ellis was plowing Alice quite dutifully, and she was whelping once a year. She gave him 9 children, 8 girls, and 1 precious little boy, another Jasper, after which she died, exhausted. Boy Jasper, inconsiderate of the heroic efforts that had gone into begetting him, got himself kicked in the head by a horse when he was 3 years old. A pox took 2 of his sisters after, leaving 6. The eldest married Sir Dennis Arran. There are several branches of House Arran scattered across the Vale, all as proud as they are penurious. And then Dennis hailed from one of the poor proud branches. But he was a renowned jouster, and he had that magic Arran name, which made him ideal for the eldest Waynwood girl. Their children would be Arrans, and the next heirs to the Vale should any ill befall Elbert. Well, as it happened, Mad King Eris befell Elbert, and apparently was murdered by the Mad King. Soon after, Sir Dennis left his pregnant Waynwood wife to ride to war. He died during the Battle of the Bells of an excess of gallantry and an axe. I love that. An excess of gallantry and an axe. When they told his lady of his death, she perished of grief, and her newborn son soon followed. No matter, John Arran had gotten himself a young wife during the war, one he had reason to believe fertile. He was very hopeful, I'm sure, but you and I know that all he ever got from Lysa were stillbirths, miscarriages, and poor sweet Robin, which brings us back to the 5 remaining daughters of Ellis and Alice. The eldest has been left scarred by the pox that killed her sisters, so she became a septa. Another was seduced by a sellsword and was cast out, and she joined the Silent Sisters. The third wed the Lord of the Paps, but proved barren. I do not know what the Lord of the Paps is. That sounds made up. Well, all of this is made up. The fourth was on her way to the Riverlands to marry some bracken when burned men carried her off. That left the youngest, who wed a landed knight sworn to the Waynwoods, gave him a son that she named Harold, and perished. So tell me, sweetling, why is Harry the heir? He's not Lady Waynwood's heir. He's Robert's heir if Robert were to die. When Robert dies. Our poor, brave, sweet Robin is such a sickly boy. It's only a matter of time. When Robert dies, Harry the heir becomes Lord Harold, Defender of the Vale and Lord of the Erie. John Arran's bannermen will never love me, nor our silly, shaking Robert, but they will love their young falcon. And when they come together for his wedding, and you come out with your long auburn hair, clad in a maiden's cloak of white and gray with a direwolf emblazoned on the back, every knight in the Vale will pledge his sword to win you back your birthright. So those are your gifts from me, my sweet Sansa. Harry the heir and Winterfell. That's worth another kiss now, don't you think?
This man... This man is out here doing the Lord's work. He is out here plotting and scheming and conniving and playing, and it is all very, very, very impressive. It is like, I don't know if this is going to work, but it is ambitious and it is impressive, and it is like makes other people in the book who think that they are about that life of playing these games, making them look like amateurs, making them look real bad. Like, this dude is just functioning and operating on an entirely different fucking level. And it makes me so sad that all I got on the show was like twirling evil mustache guy.
Yep.
You know, because this shit is inspired. Like, like, I don't know. I am not saying that this information that he has and that he's put together is like something no one else could have put together, right? This is just information that's out there, right? Anybody who's interested could put this together. But it's the type of person that knows to be interested in this particular type of information and understand that it has value, right?
Yeah.
It takes a particular type of person to be bothered to learn these details that don't seemingly matter to you on their face, you know?
Yes.
And then to take these bits of information and hold on to them, in some cases, for years, and have
Literally.
the patience
Yeah.
to have the fucking patience to just be like, I don't have to pounce on it right now. I'm just going to put this in my back pocket. You know? It is.
Or I'll just like keep an eye on it and see how it develops, because there's
Yep.
like two directions this could go
Yep.
in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And positioning yourself to be able to take advantage of whichever way it goes, right? That's the other thing too, is that he can't always be guaranteed of an outcome. So he makes it so that whatever the outcome, he can work to his advantage. You know what I mean? Which is just, this shit is on a whole other level, y'all. This is, this is, and like the idea that this is the way, like we have to deal with Cersei and get her and her threat out of the way so that Sansa can be Sansa again. But it, like, a lesser man would have just been like, we gotta wait Cersei out until she is undone and then you can be Sansa. But he's like, no, we're not just doing that. We're also doing this other thing where you're going to be married to an heir of the Vale that people have, like, low-key kind of discounted and forgot about. Like, they're just thinking about him like that, you know? I'm going to position you so that when this all shakes out, you're going to have the Eyrie and Winterfell. Like, come on. Who else is doing this? Who else is out here doing this?
Yep. And you're completely correct about why so many of us were so frustrated, because the show makes him seem like an amateur. The show has him out here just saying his business to people and bragging about what a mastermind he is. And the whole deal with him is that nobody really understands what a mastermind he is, because he just seems ambitious for money. There's no real sense of where he's actually heading or what he wants.
Yep.
And the show just completely flattened him into this two-dimensional. It was just so disappointing. By the way, Oswald Kettleblack, I went and looked him up. This bitch is the three sons' father. This is not one of the three sons.
Oh shit! It's the dad.
This is the guy that was rowing the boat to get Sansa onto the ship that took her away at King's Landing on the night that she fled.
Oh, I knew he was already in Peter's employ, and when it but I forgot like how. So if Oswald's the dad, then we have an Osney, an Oswald.
Nope.
And
Osney, Osfrid, and Osmond.
And Osmond. Osfrid, Osmond, and Osney are the boys, and Oswald is the dad. Oh, shit. So that's so funny. So like, Cersei is fucking all wrapped up in these sons, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what the relationship with the sons and the dads are, but I don't know. Also, I don't remember what Cersei's relationship with the father is, or if there is even one. But
I don't think she knows their father exists.
Right? So he comes back, and Peter's like, and he has some stories to tell. What the fuck? Like, I don't know how much he knows about what his sons are doing. Like, ooh. You guys, this is so good.
This is very satisfying.
I am.
Sorry.
Oh.
I had a nail clipper I just dropped.
Yeah, I am invested.
Yay!
But you know what? We are like almost done this book, and I know the next book is going to cover the same time period with just different people. So all of this beautiful, beautiful groundwork that's being laid here, that's coming out at the end of this book, I am really like, it's all beautiful, but like, did you ever actually get it though? You know, and it if the next book is what everybody has said, which is again like just covering the sort of same time period just from different vantage points, there's not going to be any forward movement on these plots that I'm getting, these reveals that I'm getting, and that makes me super, super sad. Damn it! I'm so sorry. Yeah, shit.
Yeah, it is like a beautiful construction, though. This is what everybody has been so excited for you to get to. These moments, especially in these past 2 chapters, are really showing what was going on in the books that the show never bothered with or touched on, and how much more there is going on in this world than what we got to see. So
this is like really like it's really satisfying to get these reveals and a real appreciation for the grander story that he is trying to tell, and just like how rich he intended it to be, you know. And so the letdown of now in hindsight seeing what the show did and didn't do, and then the reality that these books aren't finished, I'm finding myself in a really weird spot, and I don't love it. You know, I don't love where I am.
I think everybody could agree with that.
You know, and it's funny too, because before, when I hadn't read, and I knew the frustration of the books not being finished, and the readers and the fans being frustrated about that, I only knew what I knew from the show and the threads that weren't wrapped up in a satisfying way, right? I had no idea of these much, much richer plot lines that aren't satisfied. And so when I would bemoan the books not being done, I was only being sad for the stories that I was aware of that were unfinished.
Yeah.
And now I am getting brought up to speed and seeing what was left on the table and how good what the stuff on the table is. It's really good. Like, it's yum, 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 you know? Like, yeah, man.
You thought we just wanted our friggin' basket of fries on the side, and we were like, we have a tenderloin and some smashed truffled potatoes,
you know,
actually.
Like, I thought you just wanted to see, like, her and her dragons and, like, how she comes back to King's Landing. I thought that was all everybody wanted. And there is so much other stuff going on. You know, don't get me wrong, dragons and shit, cool as shit, and I do want to see that too, don't get me wrong, but there's so much other shit going on, and that I'm not going to get into the story. Somebody was talking, I think it was in our group, somebody was saying, I forget who it was, forgive me, listener, but they were like, George should let someone else finish the books, and I forget how it came up. Maybe it was talking, I forget what other author out
Brandon
there.
Sanderson, I'm pretty sure. He's usually the one people bring up.
He finished someone else's stories. But I forget what property it was, but I guess he jumped in and finished something for someone.
I feel like it was Wheel of Time, but let me just double check that. It was Wheel of Time.
So, Wheel of Time, that's the Lord of the Rings, John? No.
What?
No, I'm confused.
Oh.
I'm getting myself confused.
Are you talking about the, like, Lord of the Rings TV show from Amazon?
I got them confused because I watched them at the same time. There's Lord of the Rings on Amazon that I watch, and then there's Wheel of Time that I watched on Prime. But I haven't read those books, so I don't know anything about like who wrote those and what the deal is on all that. I only know the TV show, the one season of the TV show. So people were suggesting someone just finished Song of Ice and Fire, and it was a very robust conversation because some people were like, absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
If George can't finish it, then I don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, y'all. I think I want it.
This is the sort of thing that, and Brandon Sanderson, he's an amazing writer.
I don't know if I want him to do it.
That's the thing. Is like, I feel like usually the tone that he brings, it doesn't suit Song of Ice and Fire to me, but I haven't read all of his work. You know, I've been doing like the Mistborn series and Wax and Wayne with Miles, and I have read the I can't remember the name of the other series, but I like read the other major series that he is working on. I think I stopped partway through like the 4th or 5th book in that series. And
did he write Percy Jackson, or was that somebody else?
No. Oh God,
Who wrote that?
Rick Riordan.
That's right. That's
Riordan.
The other name. Okay.
I don't know how to say his last name, but yeah.
Right.
But yeah, Brandon Sanderson. It's not that he can't do some of what George R. R. Martin does, but his stuff tends to be so much more concerned with like magical systems and action from a lot of what I've read than on the kinds of like, I hate using the word gritty because that is always, it's so overused now, but there isn't a lot of grittiness to his writing in the way there is to George R. R. Martin's. There's a possibility he could like really dig into that aspect of his writing and like lean on that because he understands the tone is different here. Maybe he could do that, but I don't know. The real thing is like, if that were to happen, are we talking him finishing it from nothing, just like notes, or is he getting given info by George who knows I'm not going to be able to pull this off, so will you take over because I'm about to clock out? Like, is this a deathbed? I'm handing you over all of my major plot points that are coming for you to figure out, or what?
In a perfect world, and I don't know anything. I've never read anything by Sanderson, so I don't know his writing style at all. I have no suggestions on who I think should pick up this mantle. However, I'll say if it were going to happen, I would really like for someone to come in and work closely with George to, finish his vision, because it seems like he has it plotted out how he wants it to go. And it's just the actual, not just the sitting down and getting the words on paper that are giving him pause, but also like maybe the story got away from him a little bit. And normally that's something you would work on with your editor, and your editor would help you get back on track. But maybe what he needs is a co-writer.
Maybe. Yeah, I could see that.
And then, and then that way, but, and this is going to sound really shitty, and it's probably because I have I'm so sick of George Martin at this point, but I don't see him, he seems very tight-fisted with this property, and I just don't see a world where he hands this off to anybody, unfortunately, Or if he does, he gives it to those terrible people that he works with. That couple that turned out to be trashy, that turned out to be really terrible people, you know what I'm talking about?
Don't
especially
even
the woman.
say that, yes.
Like, for whatever reason.
It turns out, Brandon Sanderson has had this conversation.
Oh,
I just found this because I Googled it. He says, I'm going to just read his entry. This is a Reddit post from him. I'll admit, I haven't read the entire Song of Ice and Fire. I read the first book. And while I thought the writing was excellent, I've enjoyed a lot of George's short fiction. I found the experience too much for me. It didn't feel realistic so much as, look how much I can build something up before I destroy them. which is an absolute art. It's using emotion in a very powerful and clever way. But I feel he's often doing things to shock and surprise precisely because they'd be too pessimistic for an ordinary fantasy series. His series feels like a distinct reaction and contrast to the cozy fantasy stories of the 80s. That said, I realize my friends who love Song of Ice and Fire point out part of the strength of the series is how he takes people you thought were irredeemable and makes you root for them, which does indeed have an optimism to it. And since I haven't read the entire series, I can't speak from a position of authority. Indeed, it may be too early to judge for any of us, as you point out, because we haven't seen where the journey takes the characters. I'd say I considered talking more about magic in my original post, but I felt I'd gone on too long already. It's not the divine nature of magic in mind as much as the reliable tool-based nature of magic. In George's books, he often takes a more classical wonder-style approach to magic, meaning you never know exactly what the ramifications of using it will be, and you can't ever truly control it. In a way, most magic in his books is akin to the One Ring, while my magic tends to be an unexplored science that, if understood, can be used reliably. In this, he's more like Tolkien, and I'm more Asimov.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's
I wonder
really,
when that's from.
like what I was feeling, because he doesn't like. Brandon Sanderson doesn't use swearing in his books much. There's very little sex. There's a cleanness to it, like an almost family friendliness to it, even though it is really complex, and there are certainly themes about like oppression and violence. It's a lot more surface in that regard, and he doesn't seem like the right guy for it. So I appreciate that he recognizes, like, yeah, this is not my jam at all.
I wonder who out there thinks that they would be a good fit.
I think people just get into like certain writers, and they're just like, just this guy. Like, he is so popular, and people stan writers without really being critical about like thinking through how this would work. And also, Brandon Sanderson writes really, really fucking fast. So much, like so many books that he can produce in such a short time. 5 years will pass and he will have written 6 500-page books in that time. So I think part of the joke is supposed to be that like George takes fucking ages and Brandon Sanderson churns them out. And so get the guy who churns it out to fucking finish this thing already.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Well, I just don't know enough current authors in this genre. I don't have any names to throw in the hat. I'd be really curious if there is and there probably is a conversation about it on Reddit somewhere, I'm sure. Like, who else could we get that would be a good fit?
I'm sure. I don't really like, I don't have a name at the top of my brain here at all.
This book, Feast for Crows, is 2005 is the date. Mm-hmm. So that's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the other book, which is Dance of Dragons, is that the second half of this?
Yes.
Is that what's next? So it probably came out shortly thereafter because he split them in two, right? So we didn't have to stop and wait and write a whole new book.
I feel like it was 2011. Hold on, let me look.
What was 2011?
Dance with Dragons?
Oh my God, yeah, it says it.
Date. Yep, 2011. Yep.
So he took another, even though this was one book that had to get split into two, it still was 6 years before the second one came out.
Correct.
How does that make sense? That makes no sense. Child, we ain't never getting these books.
So we're in year 12 at this point.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Going into year 13 because that was July 12th it came out. So we're on the other side of that.
Good Lord. So depressing. What a depressing way to win this episode.
Well, you know. What can you do? Let's end it on a high note. Hey, new patron this week. We have Zabina Shostrom.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for becoming a patron, Zabina. Really, really appreciate you. Hope you're enjoying the content. You guys, I'm really excited because the Patreon app has added lounges finally. I think I talked about this already, but it's a really fun little thing. It's just like goofy. There's not a lot of serious conversation going on in there, but it's fun to like jump in there and just I dropped some pictures of bookmarks that I'm going to be giving away, posted on socials later, but I was like, everybody keep an eye out for this because I'm going to be doing a giveaway kind of thing. But I just really want everybody who has become a patron to know that you are keeping me fed, keeping my dogs fed, keeping the lights on. It's really crucial. And I appreciate each and every one of you so much. You are just miracle workers. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Sabina. Thank you, everybody else who is continuing to pledge. And I hope that you guys are taking advantage of all of the different playlists, because I made a bunch of collections and there's all kinds of things that a lot of folks didn't even know I had covered. So go explore that.
That's always the case.
It is. I've covered so much, I forget.
Yeah, there'll be someone in a comment that makes like, oh, when she did this, and they'll be like, she covered what? When? Yeah.
I even do that, somebody would be like, oh, well, when you covered, and they'll bring up like Justified or Hannibal. And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. Both of those, actually, I covered with Alan, who I haven't recorded with in years now. But Alan and I went to high school together, so it's kind of wild how we wound up reconnecting for a bit there. But then he had a kid, and I was packed with my schedule and have not been able to do another one. But he was really fun, and Hannibal was especially just like, what a ride. So what a weird fucking show that is.
Beautiful, beautiful show that was to watch, visually just stunning.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I might do a rewatch. Yeah, it's very good.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you all again. Reminder, RoShawn's going to be coming to visit me next week, and we're going to see Beyonce, so there won't be an episode because we won't be recording. We're taking that time off, but we will be back after that. So, all's good. And until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant.